Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is Worldbuilding Wednesday. Yes. The day of world building, assuming everything is working. Today we return with our solo TTRPG preparation. Oh, here we are. There. It is, of course, Wednesday somewhere in the galaxy, and I, as always, am the host, Casimira Basilius of the Empire. And we shall be working on the usual. Am I? Not ideal, not ideal. Hopefully not too much settings and all that. And yes, the other Basil. Another Basil added to the collection. There we are. The creature that wants the coffee. Indeed. We, of course, have our coffee. We have our dice. And we have our sheets. And so it will try. You know, one thing I should attempt. One thing I should attempt is to acquire the hat, the one that I currently have, and give that poor little creature a hat for only a few small payments of 30,000 galactic standard credits. You can get that poor little creature an imperial hat. Yes. Its own tiny hat. Anyway, so yes. As for other projects, they are still back in the works. But the other projects that are in the works have been slow to happen due to the fact that we currently, recently, are working on a bunch of other systems. A lot of our effort here has gone into rules for, well, dice game rules, modifications, systems, fancy stuff like that. So we haven't had a lot of time to have our conscripts go out and collect the news, the space news, or any of the other things we theoretically have had planned. But I mean, it's just mostly news, 99% news. As for the solo TTRPG, well, for that, we need to finish the solo character. That's why we're here. Well, for world building, but we're also gonna, you know, that's the focus for the day. The the character for the solo campaign. Assuming I can find the sheet. There we are. We are going to have to move the creature. Nope, I have it set to be over there. It should stand in front of the desk. There we go. There, much better. Now it can still crave the coffee, but the sheet shall be visible. Assuming I can hit the right button to use the sheet. That's that's the main trick here, isn't it? There we are. Perfect. All the way to the bottom. There we go. Good. Oh, coffee. So, I suppose we'll get right to work. The creature it hides. It shan't hide. It should remain visible, lest it run off and cause chaos. Yes. Let's see. So, let's zoom in a little bit and see where we left off. I believe we picked our 20 character creation picks. We've assigned the skills, the abilities, we have the stats. I should have made a list instead of just saying the things that were left to do, but I didn't, so here we are. Inventory, that's one of them. Inventory and perhaps some starship modifications, and then setting up campaign stuff, actual stuff. It's hard to say because it's we'll go over it. No, we're about to inventory, and we're going to use the simple inventory, but not the degrading dice. Just the normal simple inventory, which we will take from this sheet and modify it from here because it will be easier if we do it this way as opposed to doing it from scratch. Assuming I can scroll up and find what I'm looking for. Okay, now we go back to our sheet and we place it. Skills, we'll put it right under feats. Nope, right here. Good, perfect. There we are. We have a neural data pad. It's already listed under augments. We have a slightly fancier sheet here than the simplified sheet. I say, but like I'm pretty sure the upper sheet is the simplified sheet, but that's not important. Everything should be listed here. However, since I stole this from another sheet, we should remove the items that the other character had. There we are. Okay, so all of our basic items should be listed down here. We'll just remove this because all of that is listed there. Perfect. Okay, step 2. Actually acquiring items because, well, armor and weapon useful. But what weapons and armor? For this, I'm going to go over to our item book. Unfortunately, I can't open that book visibly without a tremendous amount of effort on behalf of our conscripts. So, I will show what I'm doing slowly. I mean, assuming I can even figure out what I'm doing in the first place. Being, we know we are going to be playing as an adventurer, a mercenary adventurer working for Greytree, as listed here. We have our rundown starship, possibly a small crew, which we will work on. Our exploration, adventuring, mercenary work, and salvaging is our main goal. We're being paid by Greytree, but we need gear. And I will give us some very basic starting gear. In fact, I know, I know exactly what we're going to do. We are going to have a shotgun. Why? Because I rarely use shotguns. I'm more of an assault rifle enjoyer. But, I mean, shotguns have lots of use, so we'll take one of those. So now, at least it's not visible here, but I'm on my shotguns list. We can of course modify them and edit them and do whatever to them. But first, we gotta pick a base model of shotgun. So for that, we have, I think we're going to go with a 10 gauge because why not? We'll go for, here's the hard question. The hard question is pump action, semi-automatic, or automatic? That is the hard question. They each have, I was about to say they each have their benefits, but like, no, no, they don't. I mean, they each have their own rules associated with them. Well, sort of. Technically, they do each have their own benefits and drawbacks, but automatic is better, other than jamming and other such cases. Automatic's better on account of more more shells better. Almost said more bullets, but shells. Yeah, more rounds going down range is often better. But I mean, of course, an automatic shotgun does here at least cost more. We are starting with it for free though, but we'll go with a semi-automatic shotgun. Now I need to edit this. because if I placed it now, it would be all messed up. There we go. Oh, and it still is. I thought I fixed that. Okay, there we go. I suppose that's the other benefit of the automatic one. I mean, I say the automatic one, you can have multiple variations. No, actually, this automatic one also has internal and not a magazine. Interesting. We can, of course, modify, and that's where we get to. A lot of the system of generic items can be modified to fit a variety of factions and such. Often we'll just say generic because A, there's, well, that, hence it says it there, because there's a limited amount of stats. I mean, you can have a lot of variation, don't get me wrong. You can have a lot of variation, but basically the issue you face with it is you can only have so much variation, even though there is a lot, compared to motions towards the galaxy. As, I mean, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up for fun. We'll do it right now. Okay, here we are. Nope. Minimizing the wrong things and opening the, well, okay. We're looking for galaxy map. Here we are. So, how many variants of shotgun are there possibly as we zoom in on one sector? This, of course, being even just a portion of the galaxy, it's not the entire galaxy. Did I not have that on this map? One of my maps I have the full scale listed, but it's apparently not this version. This is, of course, an older file. Anyway, so each little square surrounded by a white border being a sector of 150 by 150 light years. Each yellow square being a subsector of 15 by 15 light years. Yes, 10 by 10, and then 15 by 15. And then each one of these little purple marks being a star system. A star system doesn't have to have a star technically, but a star system basically having 0 to 30 something natural objects in it. And then you realize that each one of those could have a civilization. So 30 civilizations theoretically, or more, depending on if it is a unified world or a world with a variety of nations. And then that zoomed out to 30 up to, and then you get the point. There's more possible nations and subgroups building shotguns than we can possibly have variations in shotguns, other than, I suppose, if you want to go into exceptional detail about, well, this shotgun's stats are technically the same, but it has this little mark here as opposed to there, or it has technically the same stats, but its muzzle velocity is 0.00001 higher than it. I mean, like, doesn't matter at a point, but we can have quite a bit of variation in our items. So it's not like we need a unique item for everything. That's what we can name it and give it lore and all that. That's the thing. Anyway, I have rambled about the generic tag more than enough. Let's see, how can we make this shotgun less generic? First, we can remove the word generic from its name. Step 1. Step 2, it's still generic. What are we going to do? Well, I'm going to open my big book of rules. Or at least I'm going to try to. Assuming I can find it. That's always the hard part. Here we are. For this, basically, I have to find my item creation rules. There we are. Item qualities and tags. And then we can see what fun qualities and tags we can add to this thing. So, firstly, I believe we are going to make this shotgun what? What are we going to do? It's one thing to go, let's change it up a bit. It's another thing to actually do so. Uh, hmm. We are going to make it rugged. We are an adventurer after all, and that means we're going to grab the rugged tag. This especially sturdy weapon gets a +2 with all of its saves to not be destroyed. Technically, it is a, no, it's just going to be a +2, correct. And it also technically means that it will degrade slower for when we're out there in the frontier. We're going to technically add a second line here. Rugged. We're going to give it one more tag to customize it. Actually, we're going to do this instead. There we go. So, rugged and one more tag. What tag? Hmm. This is the hard question. If we have a survival shotgun, what other tag should we give it? Probably dependable? Hmm. Maybe not. Maybe laser. No, no. I want a ballistic shotgun. Well, while there are laser shotguns, don't get me wrong, they're out there, but I want to mess around with ammo. Yes, perhaps simple maintenance. Not a bad idea. Let us add it. Okay, let's go back over to our sheet. Simple maintenance. That way, if I remember correctly, because I don't know which book that one's listed in. I believe, if I remember correctly, that one makes the weapon take less time to maintain, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong. That would probably be under this rule book. No? Hmm. Weapon maintenance. Maintenance and repair. Maintenance is needed at least a half hour per day per item in bad conditions, or at least 1 to 5 minutes per day in good conditions. Okay, here we are. Next, We need armor and a sidearm. Ooh, there we are. Yep, longer without maintenance, easier to maintain, +2 on repair checks. Thank you, thank you. Very useful. Okay, let's see. As for pistol, we'll go with something simple, something easy. As we scroll through the list of why is every pistol a 9mm? And then we will settle on a targets limited 40mm, .40 double action autoloader pistol, not 40mm, .40 caliber. Yes. Um, or or we can go with the targets limited 5.45mm double action autoloader pistol, which has slightly better capabilities. Yes. It is more expensive though, but we'll go with that. Look, it's not my fault. Most guns are in this book are listed in millimeter, and then just randomly one of them is in caliber instead. This one we're not going to customize because it's built by Targets Limited. Not that we can't, it's just, I mean, it's already a custom weapon. There we are. So this shotgun's been customized. We're going to slap together some numbers to give it. 8992. There we go. And I suppose let's do a quick bit of math. We will have 40 shells. And for our pistol, we will have 3 mags. There we go. Good. Next, what's next? Armor. Armor. Let us actually reorganize this a little bit. By that, I mean we'll take this, move it down 1, move this down 1, then we'll put our armor up there. So, armor-wise, what are we grabbing? As I go over to our armor section in the book, scientific field suit, nope. Light, medium, and heavy armor, we're not going to have heavy. We are a bit of a mercenary, but I think we're going to do something different and go with a light combat torso plate only. No, yeah, yes, for fun and challenge. Even though it is gonna make life difficult. There we go. So we'll have a light combat torso plate. We will have, of course, built-in light spacesuit under it. It would be very bad if we didn't. That would be, well, detrimental to our not getting obliterated by space and toxins when exploring a random world. So we will, of course, take undersuit of environmentally sealed. That's what I'm looking for. So we'll make a note that it is environmental sealed undersuit. There we go. Next, we have our items, but that's basically all we're going to start with because we have a starship. Might as well go light on the items. And we can always buy more should we need to. We'll have to earn money adventuring to acquire more items. Wild. Our Corvette has a FTL failure mitigation system. There's not too many other systems I want to give it. Little manipulator arms, grappler cannons. Yeah, not much else I want to give it. I believe we gave it a damaged workshop. Yes, we have a damaged workshop. Most everything we need. We definitely, definitely need environmental life support on our armor, yeah. It would be dangerous if not. Let's see. That covers the majority of our basic starting kit. We can theoretically always ask the bot and questions and such as we go, and we will roll on our charts and all that. But the next step in a solo TTRPG, we're going to build our chart. The chart being what we will track our information on. A goal, if you will, other than, of course, repairing our ship and making money, a plot goal. And for that, we're either going to, well, right now we're going to come up with it or we're going to make it. I know what my goal is. My goal is going to be everything here, which is going to be, well, exploring, using the exploring and social rules using, of course, we'll have some combat, we'll have all that. But as I said, I kind of want to run a small organization. So we're going to have a bit of that in the campaign. But how do we prep? How do we set all this up? Well, we have some facts we know. We work for Greytree. Greytree sent us out here. We have a ship. We probably have a bit of a crew, which we will have to pay, which is gonna cost us. But we'll get to that. Why are we out here exploring? Now, one can explore for exploring's sake, one can explore for money, fame, etc., but no, I mean on a more plot reason, why are we out here? And to answer that, we, well, that's the hard thing. That's what we would, we got to figure that out. Um, Greytree has sent us out on this expedition to find resources, but also because as I open our chart, this being the random words chart, we will generate some random words. Here we are. They've sent us out here because first roll says unstable. Second roll, unstable what? Hideaway. Unstable hideaway. What does this mean? They've sent us out here because of an unstable hideaway. That, as we throw that around in our mind for a good moment, why would a megacorp send us out? They don't need lesser things, of course. We don't need to work. The megacorp's not going to be concerned about a lesser treasure, like, oh, one prospector found some things and stored it. But that does bring me an idea. A very good idea. Well, I'm not sure if it's good. I think it's good, but let's see. An old survey outpost. The first thing that popped into my mind was maybe it is an old prospector and or adventurer. Grey Tree does love resource extraction after all, but a part of that evolved, that has evolved into similar but larger scale because we are talking megacorp. An old entire survey outpost was recently found. We're going to put lost, an old lost. Survey outpost was recently found. Not the deep frontier, just the frontier. In the frontier. And what about it? It needs a little bit more than they found it. Okay, then, I mean, well, technically we don't, but let's add to that. An old lost survey outpost was recently found in the frontier. Dating back to, one second. Okay, dating back to probably the second. Okay, for this, I need to go to my big book of galactic history, also known as I have to use my neural datapad to access the historical archives. What do the historical archives say? What book did I even save the historical archives in? That would be in the lore book, wouldn't it? Yes. Okay, but where's my history section? There it is. It's actually at the back of the book. Here we are. So, this research station was probably lost at some point in the exploration era. It's not really called the exploration era, but there was a lot of exploration between the years 112, 012, 256, 500 and 012, sorry, 112, 012, 25700. What year is it right now? That's the question. It is, you can tell by looking at the top right. Here we have our calendar. It is 7897. 78. And so that would have been almost 700 years ago. This, unless I'm reading this backwards. I am reading this backwards. 700. So, yeah, no, about 800 or so years ago, this station was lost. And we'll make a note that approximately 800 years ago. Okay, but we add a bit more. Why does Gray Tree want this, other than it being useful? Gray, I can't type. Tree suspects that the station has old data that they can use to get an advantage. Okay, how are they going to do that? Simple. Why are we involved? And the answer is simple. Gray Tree only has partial data on the outpost. They don't know exactly where it is. And this can lead us to what we want to do, which is build and improve and run a little organization. So, unfortunately, Gray Tree only has a vague idea of the location. They've sent Albie, that's our character here. They've sent Albie to find the station and bring it into an operational state. Search its archives. And hopefully find data on the systems and worlds in the area. Yes. What else? Albie will be granted. No. The station can then serve as a hub for further exploration of the frontier. Now, they're not going to give the station to Albie, but I mean, they are just sending us there, so ideally we can get it operational and set up there. Yes. Bring it up to operational capability. So yes, that will be our goals. Now we have a an overarching thing to strive for before we get tied into the space politics of whatever the local nations are doing. But that we won't know until we go and explore and find, well, we first got to find the station and well, we'll explore on our way there and it'll be a whole thing. We'll figure it all out as we go. And yes, it is a old research station, but it's in deep space. It's not like it's going to decay much. It'll decay a bit, but like a station's a station. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Yes. So we have that main bit. Next, we're going to need, we'll minimize this for a minute. Oh, assuming we can ever open the right thing, we need a map. Did I make one? That's the question. Nope, that's the wrong frontier sector. I did. There we are. So this will be our empty sector map. The one thing we will, words, the one thing will do is prepare, prepare a starting system. Okay, so, well, a very vague starting area. We are in the deep frontier, so basically, I say deep, it's not the deep frontier, but we're in a place that's relatively unexplored. So we need a place to set off from, basically, and that will be a far outpost. For that, we'll make some more notes. I mean, we go here, but, well, here's what we'll do. Here's what we'll do. We'll place one marker. I have to find my markers. That would be under flags, city mark, custom markers. There we go. Change to object, size, medium. There we are. Basically, we're just determining where on the top of this map we start. We are in, well, let me go over to the other map and show. We're not, of course, starting today, but we are preparing. So, we are somewhere along here, the southern border of the Galactic Council. Likely somewhere over here. So, basically, we will be towards the top and the right of our map because if we're heading, we're going this way. So the edge planet will be top right of the map. Now let's go back to our map. And we will have some civilization on the sector we're going to explore. Some, I say civilization. Technically, these are frontier civilizations that aren't part of the major nations, but we'll have one basically at least some mapped areas up here, basically. Suppose we'll start. Here's as good place as any. I realize that maybe my grid is messed up. It is. But not in a way I can fix. Not easily. Not without going to my grid file. That would be under our tokens. Map templates. Huh. I found a random template. Weird. Blank sector image. Trim. V2. Perfect. We'll see if this one works better. The reason I'm doing this is, if you can see, it's slightly off. Ideally, we can fix that. Maybe, maybe not. We'll find out. Yes. Much better. Perfect. It's not going to be 100% perfect, but it is better than it was. Like I said, we're using older versions of these maps. Okay, so this is our starting area. We will make note how, somehow. I really wish we had our updated versions here. That would make things so much easier, but we don't. Um, Construction library? No. Blank sector map? System map? No. Blank sector map. Oh, I clicked system again. Yeah, this is the older version that doesn't have the things I can click up here to copy. Unfortunate. Okay, so to note that this is where we are, we'll do it the easy way, which is we will grab a token to use to represent. And just because, there we are. Until we get a proper token to use, we'll just place that there to represent that that's where the starting system is. Dios mío, la critura. Okay, and I will work on going through my files later to update this all to be the more modern version. Okay, so what else is there? We have our very rough starting area, as this is exploration. On most World Building Wednesdays, we'll expand the map a bit, and on solo Sundays also, we will explore those worlds. So not all data on the worlds is going to be generated on Solo Sunday because we'll be using exploration rules and all sorts of fun stuff to generate them on the go. Yes. But it will be focused more so on the actual adventuring and combat and all that, but we'll do a bit of exploration during the actual gameplay. The next question is more of a vague one, which is how complex do we want to go? Because there are varying degrees of complexity in Java. We are, of course, using the simple character rules for character creation. I say simple character rules. It's not actually all that simple as much as it's more it's more classless and levelless as opposed to simple. I call it simple because theoretically it's easier to understand and has less confusing things in it than normal GR character creation, which is far more complex but has a lot more complex. Yes, this word's hard. The system of homeless basil. Let's see. So from there we have well, we have DR now, so let's add that in. Damage reduction 3. Wow, it won't stop anything. What is our AC bonus from this armor? 2. Wow. So our armor's bad. We've just figured out our armor is bad. But that's just the way of things. Let's see. Another thing we could do, which we will do, is slap some modifiers on our armor real fast. For that, it's going to be very easy. We're not really slapping modifiers as much as armor not yet, well technically they're called upgrade kits. Is that a system? No, no. It's just we just call them upgrade kits because you can buy kits to upgrade your armor, or you could just craft it yourself. I don't know. Anyway, we will have 48-hour life support. I believe. Let me double check. Yep. So first things we're going to add is, assuming I can go back to here, life support system, 48 hours. Second thing we're going to add, even if we don't have life support on, because that's not always ideal, I think we're going to give it camo. Yes. Woodland camo. We are going to be exploring. I mean, watch us immediately land on a desert world wearing woodland camo. Woodland camo pattern in woodlands. There we are. So we have a life support system, we have our woodland camo, any other mods we want to slap onto our armor. For this, there's a lot. There's a lot. We could have a whole set of helmet mods, vision enhancers, all sorts of fancy stuff, which we're not going to take. We're starting with not a lot. But life support is kind of one of the essentials for being an explorer. It seems like something we should innately, I say innately, it's something we should definitely just, take. Yeah, we won't start with, we'll figure out as we go, I suppose. There's a lot we could take, but that would be too easy. So we're not going to take much. For instance, we could take an auto tracking system built into our helmet that tells us where we are in relation to our starship as long as we have a signal, so we can never get lost. We could do that, but no, too easy. We are doing hard mode. Let's see. Ooh. So we do technically need to customize our Corvette a little bit. To do that, let us modify it. First things first, our Corvette does not have 500 life support. It probably at most has, as I try and decide, our Corvette shall have 80. 80 maximum life support. Secondly, so we have 80 life support. That should get us, no, more. Slightly more. No, this is a hard choice. So we do want to run a little organization, so we probably want some variety of crew on our Corvette. We could use partial worker units. So one worker unit is 100. We can technically use partial worker units of 10, so we can have less than 100 and still be fine. So 80 is probably good enough. 500 tons of cargo, what's that seem like? Too much? Too little? That's the hard question. Well, we'll we'll keep our cargo. We'll boost our cargo to 600 tons. Why not? Our Corvette is mostly cargo. 1 year of consumables, yes. Our little lasers, our launcher. Most of it seems good enough. Now, I suppose on our map, there is something we should do. I suppose we should start making the map to a degree. Assuming I can pick the right settings, that being purple, square, snap to grid. It's either 5 or 10. I think we have it usually set to 10. Oh, and this should be on the object layer. There we are. Perfect. This, of course, represents a star system the easy way. Yeah, 5's not enough. 10 just seems like it may be too much, but those are my two usual choices, so 10 it shall be. So we know that there will be a star system there, but basically we want a little bit of civilization before we head off into the frontier. We also want a little bit of frontier. Now, there's multiple ways to do this. Generally, we've done this before. One can roll and then place the objects where you want them. That's one way to do it. Well, roll and place the objects where they appear. I have a random generator that I can type in. It's a custom built program that one can type in and hit enter and it will make a star chart. It's really neat. We could do that, or I can just place squares like so. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8. 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I kind of want this one to have 8, 8, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 9 there. And then over here, which is where we're going to start our exploration. For that, we're going to basically fill out this last sector. I suppose this is neat because from here on, we will be completely hitting the enter button on the generator. The generator is basically programmed by a boy, we can place the squares. It's fine. We'll use the generator for everything else. It's a basically a program that's designed to what rules did I so I basically gave a bunch of information to a associate who input the data into a what do you call it? This was many years back. A basically one of those, things where you type in numbers. I'm not sure. You Elysians use weird computers, a code machine, a code box thing. And basically, what it does, in simple terms, because it's based on the random math that I came up with. The random math that I came up with being the sectors. The sectors are 10 by 10. Well, 15 by 15 for the subsectors. So basically what it does is it rolls a d15 and another d15. And then well, so first thing it does, technically, first thing it does is it rolls the number of objects, or at least it asks you the number of objects. But basically, the way it originally worked is I would roll the number of objects in a star system. That's your number of objects in a star system. The oldest method was, well, then I'd roll a bunch of dice on a piece of square paper, basically, and where the dice landed would be where the stars were, and you just vaguely sort of make that shape on the map. Then we upgraded to, if it's a 15 by 15 grid, there's an easier way to do this. Roll a d15 twice. You need, of course, a bot to do this, which is why, well, I say bot, you need a computer to do this. So we would roll on the computer, 15 and 15, that would get you where on the grid to then place them. And then eventually we upgraded to, well, and if you ever had two things that rolled the same, you would roll again because you can't have two things in the same square. If you have 15 objects and they're in the same, it just doesn't work. Anyway, so basically, if I remember correctly, I didn't code it myself, the bot. I came up with the statistics of how many and that. Anyway, point being, so I'm not sure how they exactly programmed the code to do it, but basically it basically works in that same rough method, or at least in a way that gets you the exact same kind of result as if you did it the old way that I did it, which is basically two 15s, anything that's a copy, re-roll, and there's math in it. It works. It does it. Anyway, so that's two. We're gonna put 10 here, so 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. There we are. So these will be our starting 4 areas. There might be more civilization up here and down here. I say civilization, I mean places that are mapped. Of course, we are very likely to find frontier civilizations. We're not wandering off into the wilderness where there's nothing. Well, there will be some places where there's nothing, but yeah, there will likely be civilizations that we've never seen before. So we've drawn our objects. We're going to select them all, and we are going to group them, I suppose. Next, we are going to take our blue marker. We're going to set it to 50% visibility, and we are going to go to our line tool, drop it to 5. No, we'll keep it at 10, probably. And now 10 seems too much. Yeah, we're going to drop it to 5. It's maybe inaccurate from how I did it before, but it's words close enough. Okay. Now we just connect them. There's no system I have for connecting them. Or maybe I do. Honestly, I couldn't tell you. Like, sometimes I'll write rules and I'll put them in a book and I will absolutely forget them. There we are. That's our first bit. We'll have these two connect here. This is the frontier, so we don't want it too connected. We're not having every world here connected. Well, everyone should connect to a line, but we don't want them too interconnected. Like we wouldn't want a lane here to here. We wouldn't want a lane here to here. In civilized space, you sometimes get that, depending on how interconnected the systems are. There we go. Now we'll connect that to there. I think these three are going to form a sort of group, like so. This one can connect there. Those two to there. This one, that's far, that's 10 square. Oh, huh. Strange, we seem to have some sort of error there. That threw me off. There we are. I kind of want a really long... that is a bit far. We'll do this instead. Perfect. And there. Oh, I have one spare system here. I suppose something like that. And we've started our little FTL web. Very neat. So this is basically the lanes that you can travel on safely. However, we have the system that lets us do that less so. But we'll get to that when we get to that. I'm just making sure everything's still working to a degree. We had errors. There we are. Yes. I will also place a few markers. One thing I do, assuming I can find them, added pictures. Objects? No, no. I'm looking for a specific object. There we are. This. Because I often use this to represent lanes. Lanes that leave. So we know that that goes that way. This one will probably connect down there, but I'm not entirely sure about that. I don't really have one for maybe, do I? I don't. I do not have a marker for perhaps. So maybe we give it a state. Yes, we will give it a state of... Is any of these questioning? That's the question. Confusion. That's what we're looking for. Dazed? Dazzled? There we are. Confused. Perfect. I know that that one goes out of system. This one will also go out of, I say system, subsector. This one we will have go out of sector. Same with there. This one will, of course. This one definitely. That one connects over here somewhere. There. So now we have our connections of where they go off the map and where they go deeper into the things we have not generated yet. Perfect. A question mark. Yes. Basically, I'm not sure if I want this one to connect down here. It might just be a dead end. It might connect down there. So maybe, maybe not. If we go there, we'll figure it out. If we don't go there, we'll never figure it out. Actually, we'll probably figure it out by looking at the this sector when we generate it. And so we have the start of a map, and then of course we'll place little stars or at least star markers here, and then we'll be able to basically explore further in and generate as we go, as we explore and adventure and survey worlds and get into conflicts with the local governments and all that. What other preparation do we need? A crew would be nice. Do we have any ideas? We could always try and we could hire them on the go. But we do need a basic team. So we'll make some notes. Let's see, where's our note sheet? Here we are. So we're going to actually use one of our little random rollers to help us come up with some ideas for a crew. Assuming I can find my book. Here we are. Now we scroll. Oh, I didn't scroll to the top. I only scrolled to the index. There we go. Okay, so let's get us some information about our crews. We'll generate 3 people. Well, some information on 3 people. We can build them out as we go. Let's see. First thing, who do we have? Let's grab the proper dice. Roll twice. Okay. That was what was rolled. Okay. A subverter. Criminal. A criminal subverter. I see. Now let's get a description, just for fun. Helpful. Okay. Now, what does this mean? That's what we'll figure out. Okay. Who are they and why are they on our crew? Well, they're criminal subverter. That could either mean they're subverting crime or they are a criminal subverter, But then why would they be helpful? Maybe they're lying to us. Maybe they're trying to trick us. I'm thinking they're definitely anti-corp because we're working for a corp, or they're anti-nation, one of the nations up north. Ooh, they could be fleeing. In which case they're not anti-corp. They could they could be anti-Galactic Council. Yes, anti-Galactic Council. Yes, an anti-council criminal fleeing from hunters, and where better to flee than on a frontier expedition? So we will make a note they're wanted probably for severe crime. Because you don't hunt somebody so far away unless it's a rather big crime. Two. Who else? Who else? Who else? Who else are we going to generate? Let's see. This person is... After we roll that, it was basically a result of re-roll. Religious. And that is another re-roll. 76. Huh. Religious engineer. Okay. And the third one that we're rolling is a reroll. Skilled. A skilled religious engineer. Interesting. I mean, we'll discover more about these people as we go, but see, for our helpful criminal subverter, it immediately popped the question into my mind, are they a criminal subverter? Are they subverting something? Are they a et cetera, et cetera? For a skilled religious engineer, nothing pops to mind immediately. There's no big question about the plot as to why that happens. And thirdly, the last character we'll start with investigator, wealthy investigator. Okay. So for a wealthy investigator, I suppose the question, a little question does pop into mind. Are they a detective? Probably not. Probably not a detective. We will imply investigator means explorer. Because I don't think explorer is listed. We'll check. We shall check. Give me half a second. Explorer is one. So maybe we treat it as explorer, maybe we don't. Hmm. This is a hard one. Yes. Wealthy investigator. What are they investigating? Uh, ooh. They don't necessarily need to be investigating a person. They could be investigating something. Ooh. They could be also looking for the same thing we're looking for, the station. Look, they're looking for data that was supposed to be on the old lost station. Yes. What did we call it? Survey outpost. Perfect. We do have a question for our religious engineer. That, I suppose, being which religion? Hmm. For this, we will roll here. Okay. So first thing we know, it is a soul-based religion. Second thing we know, about being skillful. I suppose that genuinely fits there. I rolled on a completely different random chart thing and rolled skillful. Okay, so let's see. It's about soulful, skill. What else? What else? What else? Okay. I have to go to a different chart. Here we are. There it is. And the last one on that will be space. Okay. So it's soul focused, skill focused, and space focused. Interesting. Very good. So those will be our three initial crew, basically characters to begin interact with and all that on our adventure. They're like the standout crew members. Of course, we can talk to any NPC and all that, but these will be our basically initial ideas so we don't need to be completely lost. Basically, what we're doing right now is we're generating things to work off of. For instance, on our galaxy map, we generated basically a loose map to work off of. We have a sector to go to. We have some lanes. If you start with absolutely nothing and try and generate everything, it can cause slowdown and complication, all that. But having something to work with is important and good. And that's what we've basically done. We've come up with a few things to start with, the things that raise questions. We have our goal. We have a few ideas. We're looking for a station. What are we doing? Looking for a station. Where are we? In that system there. We can, with this, of course, go into infinitely greater detail or not as needed. What's in the system? We could figure that out, but we're not absolutely lost as to where even on the map are we? Who even is there for us to talk to? We have a start to begin with. Oh, that's one of the things we wanted to do was contacts. Contacts. So, let's see. Let's go here. Let's scroll up. Contact. What is our charisma? Because that will affect our contact. 2. So with a charisma of 2, we have words. We have a contact. We can either have 3 contacts or a contact at grade 3. Yes. Who will our contact be? We could, of course, I think we're going to go with 2 contacts. 1 contact at lowest grade, 1 contact at tier 2. Our first contact at lowest grade is going to be Grey Tree. They're the company that we work for, so of course they will be a contact. Our second contact will probably be, this is the harder to figure out thing. I'm also looking for the numbers to input into that sheet. Here we are. So this contact will be considered tier 2 associate. Disposition will go up by a tier. Friendly +2. And resource will go up a tier to 10. There. But who are they? They are... Oh no, let's go with an older spacer friend in the frontier, which is one of the reasons we're out here. Okay, I suppose we'll add a little note here. A sort of character note. Albie is following in the footsteps of an old spacer friend of theirs. They want to once more make contact with their old friend. We're actually going to lock our contact. So we're going to add this. And because we're locking our contact, we're actually going to boost them again by another tier. Because normally you're supposed to be able to use your contact. Well, theoretically, you're supposed to be able to use your contact. That's not always the case if your contact's across the galaxy. But we have a special sort of background tied contact, so we're going to make them a little bit more powerful. I say powerful, they're not innately themselves powerful, but they are more higher grade, higher connection with our character. I changed the wrong thing. There we are. Yes. The bot said religious engineer, so we have a religious engineer. And yes, spacer friend. I don't think we're gonna find a colony ship out there. That would oh, imagine the random noble from the previous campaign being like, I gotta find another colony ship. First, completely different sector. Second, other than being a completely different sector, completely different location. Um, and I don't think he cares about just any colony ship. It was rather specific. And as we all know, that colony ship turned out to have a rogue deity tier super intelligent AI on it that almost killed everybody. So, probably best not to deal with that again. Besides, I think this random adventurer we're following is a bit underprepared and not equipped for that kind of thing. Let's see. So we now have our characters, we have a little bit of background for our character, we have somebody they know, we have our inventory, we have our stats and skills, we have our ship. We're technically good to go. But I mean, there's always more to do. There's infinitely more to do. But let's see. Let's do one more thing. The last thing we'll do is we will roll a couple of words about where we are right now. Our starting location. Give us a bit of information. For this, we're going to go to here. We're going to go to location. What information have we? Ooh, looks like we are on a place that is, and I quote, holographic signs, basically, I say fancy, not fancy, but attention-grabbing holographic signs. That tells me that we are probably on a trade station or cyberpunk-ish place. Ooh, yes. Okay, so this place imports. This place basically is going to import goods from deeper in the frontier. Let's get a little bit more information about where we're starting. Let's see, what else? Which one am I rolling? Oh, this one. Okay, good. This place has, I rolled engineering. So, notably, the settlement has a thriving starship area. Has a thriving shipyard. Any other last bits of information about this place? Ooh, yes. Oh, almost threw my dice. Oh, this settlement has incompetent leadership. There we are. So, yes, noted this settlement has a thriving shipyard and incompetent leadership. It is a relatively a trade hub, but they're probably not doing, I mean, they're doing fine, but not as good as they could, probably due to their leadership. Yes. Ooh, thriving shipyard and competent leadership, making it a notable location for crime and pirates. Yes. So now we've given our starting location a little bit of flavor. Yeah. But I believe we shall call it here. We have our information, we have our starting stuff. Theoretically, we technically have enough to actually start next time on its solo Sunday. We can actually begin our adventures. At least I'm pretty sure I've covered everything. Yes. If we haven't, we'll figure it out when it comes up. Anyway, so we will call it here. Solo Sunday. Yeah, I mean, a thriving shipyard can have bad leadership. It doesn't mean the shipyard's leadership is bad, although they could be building bad ships. Could be, they let a lot of crime happen, and hence the piracy and crime. Corruption, bureaucracy lets this market hub hide an entire underlay of criminal activity. Some ships, we're selling them to legitimate traders, and then it turns out those legitimate traders are pirates, because normally, most civilized worlds, this isn't always true, but many more civilized worlds are usually not willing to sell ships to pirates, unless they're privateers. But that's possible, but like usually you don't sell ships to frontier pirates. Yeah, anyway, I suppose I'll do my normal outro. Thank you all for stopping by. As always, I've been your host, Casimir Basilius. And, well, Solo Sunday next time, probably, as we get back into the swing of things. Thank you all for stopping by and have a wonderful day.